Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sleep Space. Tonight, we will talk about something deeply human, endlessly mysterious, and scientifically fascinating. Why do we dream? And what do those dreams really mean? Whether you floated through surreal landscapes, faced impossible fears, or glimpsed forgotten faces, dreaming touches every one of us. It's personal, it's strange, and it's a window into something far deeper than most people realize. Before we begin, I want to ask, where are you listening from? And what time is it right now where you are? Feel free to leave a comment. It's always fascinating to see how connected we all are in this strange experience we call consciousness. Let's start with something deceptively simple. You close your eyes, the world fades away, your body relaxes, but then your mind starts spinning vivid stories. You talk to people who aren't there. You fly through skies that don't exist. You wake up confused, inspired, sometimes terrified. Why? For centuries, dreams were seen as messages from the gods or fragments of prophecy. But today, neuroscience offers us new ways to understand what the dreaming mind is actually doing. And it turns out the brain doesn't rest when you sleep. In many ways, it becomes even more active, shifting its energy inward, reorganizing your memories, solving problems, and sometimes just creating. To understand dreams, we first have to understand sleep. Specifically, what happens during REM sleep, short for rapid eye movement. This is the stage where most vivid dreaming occurs. Your brain waves look almost identical to when you're awake. Your muscles go limp. Your body is essentially paralyzed, so you don't act out your dreams physically. But your mind is free, and it doesn't just replay the day, it reassembles it. Emotions, symbols, smells, memories from decades ago. Your brain mixes them into bizarre, non-linear stories. Why? There are a few main scientific theories about the purpose of dreams. One of the most prominent is the memory consolidation theory. Essentially, while you sleep, your brain is trying to figure out what to keep and what to throw away. Dreams might be the emotional residue of this process. Imagine your brain as a librarian, scanning all the books from your day, tagging some as important, tossing others, and connecting seemingly unrelated files together. Your dreams are like watching that librarian at work, only the sorting happens in symbols, emotions, and images, not in language or logic. Another theory is the threat simulation theory. This is more evolutionary. It suggests that our ancestors who dreamed of danger, running from predators, surviving attacks, were better prepared for real-life threats. Dreams could be a kind of mental boot camp, rehearsing worst-case scenarios so we can face them better when we're awake. That might explain why nightmares feel so intense, and why they often involve falling, being chased, or facing fear. Then there's the activation synthesis model, proposed by researchers in the 1970s. This theory says that dreams are just random brain activity during REM sleep, and the cortex, the rational part of your brain, tries to make sense of it, like giving a random puzzle pieces a story. That's why your dreams often feel so disjointed. The story wasn't designed to make sense. It's something your brain invented after the fact to explain the chaos. But dreams aren't always chaotic. Some people experience profound clarity in dreams, solutions to problems, sudden insight, deep emotional processing. That's where the problem-solving theory comes in. There's evidence that the brain can approach issues in new ways during dreams, because it's not constrained by logic or waking life bias. The famous chemist Kekulé claim to have seen the structure of the benzene molecule in a dream. Paul McCartney reportedly composed the melody to Yesterday in a dream. Sometimes your dreaming mind knows something your waking mind doesn't. But not all dreams are useful. Some are strange, others are disturbing. Some make no sense. So how do we separate the signal from the noise? That brings us to a more psychological approach, one that looks at the meaning of dreams, not just the mechanism. Think Freud, Jung, the early dream interpreters of the modern era. Freud believed that dreams were a form of wish fulfillment. Unconscious desires, often unacceptable to the waking mind, would emerge in dreams disguised as symbols. So if you dreamed of flying, it wasn't really about flying, it was about freedom, or power, or something else hidden in the unconscious. Carl Jung had a different view. He thought dreams were messages from the deeper self, a kind of inner guide. According to Jung, dreams used universal symbols, or archetypes, drawn from the collective unconscious. That's why people from different cultures often dream in similar symbolic patterns. Snakes, dark forests, unknown houses, lost teeth. To Jung, these weren't just random images. They were the language of the unconscious mind trying to guide you toward growth, healing, or integration. Modern dream researchers are more cautious. They warn against over-interpreting every dream as symbolic, but they also recognize patterns. For example, anxiety dreams are common in people going through transitions. People who are grieving often dream of loved ones who've passed. Trauma survivors may re-experience events in their sleep. These aren't random, they're reflections of inner states. In fact, many therapists today use dream work as part of healing, not to decode some secret meaning, but to explore what the dream evokes in the person. How did it make you feel? What associations do you have with the images? Sometimes the dream doesn't tell you anything new, it just shows you what you're already feeling in a language that bypasses logic. There's also the question of lucid dreaming. What happens when you know you're dreaming and can control it? Some people experience this naturally, others train themselves through reality checks, dream journaling, or specific sleep techniques. Lucid dreaming opens up a fascinating frontier because it blurs the boundary between consciousness and dreaming. What is the mind capable of when the laws of physics don't apply? When you can literally shape your own world? Neuroscientists have studied lucid dreamers in sleep labs and found that their brains show unique activity patterns, suggesting a kind of hybrid state between REM sleep and wakefulness. It's a rare chance to observe consciousness aware of itself while unconscious, a paradox that challenges our definitions of mind and reality. So far, we've looked at biological, psychological, and philosophical theories. But there's another layer we haven't touched yet, the cultural layer. Because what you dream about isn't just about your brain. It's shaped by your environment, your upbringing, your beliefs. In ancient Egypt, dreams were seen as divine messages. In some indigenous cultures, dreams were journeys of the soul. Tibetan Buddhism has practices around dream yoga, training to stay conscious during dreams as a form of spiritual evolution. Even today, some people believe dreams can predict the future or allow visits from other dimensions of consciousness. Science hasn't proven those claims, but it also hasn't disproven the possibility that dreams could offer more than just metaphor. In the next sections, we'll go deeper into recurring dream themes, strange sleep phenomena like sleep paralysis and false awakenings, the neuroscience of emotion in dreams, how trauma reshapes the dream world, and even the possibility that dreams connect us to something larger than ourselves. For now, ask yourself this: what was your last dream? And what might it be trying to show you? To truly understand why we dream and what those dreams might mean, we need to go beyond theory and explore the structure of dreams themselves, what they feel like from the inside. Because dreaming isn't just about imagery or emotion, it's about movement through mental space, the way your brain constructs entire realities out of raw memory, fear, hope, and imagination. Most dreams follow a surprisingly similar architecture. There's often a beginning that feels familiar, a middle where something strange or disruptive happens, and an ending that usually gets cut off by waking. But unlike real life, the laws of time, space, and physics are fluid. People shift identities, places morph without warning. Past and future bleed into each other. Despite all this, your dreaming mind rarely questions what's happening. You could be floating above a city, talking to a long-dead relative, or trapped in a building with no exits. And it all feels internally consistent, even if it's nonsensical. That's because the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for critical thinking, is largely deactivated during REM sleep. Without that skeptical inner voice, your dream self accepts things as they are, no matter how bizarre. But other parts of the brain, like the amygdala, are highly active. The amygdala processes emotions, especially fear. That's why so many dreams are emotionally intense, and why nightmares can feel more vivid than happy dreams. Your brain is experiencing the emotion almost as if it were real. Dreams tend to exaggerate emotional content because the dreaming brain prioritizes feelings over facts. If something made you feel insecure during the day, say a comment from a friend, your dream might translate that into a scenario where you're standing exposed in public. If you felt excited about an upcoming event, your dream might inflate that joy into a surreal celebration. This emotional exaggeration helps your brain tag certain experiences as important, making them more likely to be remembered or processed. This is why many researchers now think dreams are part of the brain's emotional regulation system. When you dream, you're re-experiencing feelings from the day, but in a strange, symbolic format. You're not just replaying events, you're digesting them, reshaping them, letting them transform in the safety of the dream world, where there are no consequences. Interestingly, dreams don't just reflect your inner world, they can influence your waking mood. Studies have shown that people who wake up after a vivid, emotionally positive dream tend to carry that elevated mood into the day. Conversely, disturbing dreams can leave a lingering unease. This suggests that dreaming might be a two-way bridge, shaping and being shaped by your waking experiences. But dreams can also be deeply confusing. Why do we dream of things that make no sense? Of impossible events or people we haven't seen in years? One explanation is that dreams rely heavily on associative memory. Your brain isn't pulling up a clean chronological record of events. It's creating associations. If you see a red car and think of your grandmother's house, your brain might then summon an image of your childhood dog. These connections don't need to make sense to your waking mind. They just need to follow emotional or sensory trails. That's how a dream can begin with you driving to work and end with you underwater, talking to a version of yourself from 10 years ago. It's all just linked memory paths, stitched together into a narrative. In this way, dreams operate a lot like poetry. They don't use literal language. They use metaphor, rhythm, contrast, and emotion. Your mind becomes a kind of surrealist storyteller, weaving together elements from the past and present into something symbolically coherent, even if it looks nonsensical on the surface. And those symbols, they're not always universal. While Carl Jung believed in a shared symbolic language, the collective unconscious, Many modern researchers believe dream symbols are personal. A snake might mean fear to one person, transformation to another, and childhood curiosity to someone else. The meaning isn't in the symbol alone, it's in your relationship to it. That's why dream interpretation can be so tricky. There's no single dictionary that will tell you what it all means. Instead, you have to treat the dream like a puzzle made of your own mind. What did the image evoke? What did you feel when you saw it? How does it relate to your waking life? Some researchers use a technique called the dream re-entry method. After waking from a dream, they visualize the dream again, slowly and carefully, and try to place themselves back into it as if it was still happening. This allows them to explore the environment, interact with the dream characters, and ask questions. Of course, this is all imagined, but it can help reveal subconscious associations that aren't immediately obvious. It turns the dream into a kind of psychological laboratory. You might think this sounds mystical, but it's not. It's based on the understanding that your subconscious knows more than your conscious mind does. The brain processes massive amounts of sensory and emotional information during the day, most of which never reaches conscious awareness. But those impressions are still stored, and they can show up in dreams. This is especially true for people under stress. During high-stress periods, dream content tends to become more intense, more symbolic, and more emotionally loaded. Soldiers returning from combat often dream of scenarios that are metaphorically similar to their real experiences, like being trapped, hunted, or powerless. These dreams aren't just flashbacks. They're the mind's attempt to work through trauma in a way that's safer than direct confrontation. There's also a strong link between dreaming and creativity. In fact, many creative breakthroughs happen in dreams. Writers, musicians, scientists, and inventors often report dream-inspired ideas. The surrealist painter Salvador Dalí would deliberately wake himself during the onset of dreams to capture the strange imagery that would emerge. The writer Mary Shelley claimed the idea for Frankenstein came to her in a dream. This is more than coincidence. During REM sleep, the brain's normal filtering system is relaxed, allowing for connections that wouldn't occur during waking consciousness. You're not bound by logic, you're free to imagine the impossible. But perhaps the most intriguing part of dreaming is how real it feels. In some dreams, you can taste, smell, and feel textures. You feel wind on your skin, you feel heartbreak, joy, terror, and yet none of it is happening. Your body is motionless, your eyes are closed, and still you experience entire lifetimes in minutes. That's why dreams continue to fascinate not just scientists, but philosophers. They challenge our understanding of reality. If you can feel and believe something fully in a dream, how do you know this waking life isn't another layer of the same illusion? This question has echoed through time. In ancient China, the philosopher Zhuangzi famously dreamed he was a butterfly. And when he woke, he wondered, was he a man who had dreamed of being a butterfly, or a butterfly now dreaming he was a man? The boundary between dreaming and waking, between inner and outer worlds, has always been thinner than we like to believe. Dreams show us that reality is not a fixed structure. It is flexible, subjective, and built by the brain. This has profound implications for how we understand ourselves and our perception. If your brain can create entire realities in your sleep, what else might it be capable of? That's one reason modern neuroscience is beginning to take dreams more seriously. Not as mysticism, but as insight into the architecture of consciousness itself. Because dreams are consciousness just in a different form. They are you, stripped of the physical world, navigating a landscape made only of memory, emotion, and pure imagination. So the next time you find yourself dreaming of something strange, something surreal, something moving, don't dismiss it. Pay attention. You might be watching your brain reveal something it couldn't say out loud. Dreams are where the deepest parts of you rise to the surface, not to confuse you, but to show you what lives beneath. One of the most puzzling and often unsettling aspects of dreaming is the recurring dream. Why do certain dreams come back again and again, sometimes over years or even decades? Why do we return to the same abandoned house, the same collapsing bridge, or the same faceless pursuer? And why do these dreams feel more meaningful or more urgent than others? The phenomenon of recurring dreams has fascinated psychologists, neurologists, and cultural theorists for years. At the simplest level, a recurring dream is one that repeats with little variation in content. But the deeper question isn't just what these dreams show us, it's why they keep showing up. From a neurological perspective, one explanation is pattern reinforcement. Your brain forms associations through repetition. If a specific combination of emotions and memories keeps resurfacing in your subconscious, your brain might reassemble it during REM sleep in a similar narrative format. It's like rewatching the same mental movie because your mind still considers it unresolved. These dreams are often tied to underlying stressors, traumas, or unresolved internal conflicts. If you're continually avoiding a decision, suppressing an emotion, or ignoring a personal truth, your dreams may reflect that tension in symbolic form, again and again, until it's addressed. In this way, recurring dreams function like psychological alarms. They're persistent because the issue beneath them is persistent. Let's take a common recurring dream: being chased. Often there's a sense of imminent danger, but you don't know who or what is after you. You try to run, but your legs feel heavy. You look back, but the pursuer is shadowy, undefined. This kind of dream usually doesn't reflect a literal threat. It symbolizes avoidance. You're running from something internal, a fear, a responsibility, a memory. The fact that you can't see what's chasing you suggests it's something unconscious, and the heaviness in your limbs might represent the emotional weight of trying to suppress it. Another recurring theme is the exam dream. You're back in school, often unprepared for a test. Maybe you've forgotten your locker combination or can't find your classroom. These dreams are common in people who haven't been in school for years. So what's going on? This type of dream usually reflects self-judgment. You're feeling unprepared for something in your waking life. Maybe you're doubting your competence in your job or relationships. The school setting is symbolic. It represents a space of judgment, measurement, and performance. Your brain uses this metaphor because it feels emotionally similar to the pressures you're currently experiencing. Then there's the dream of being lost. You're trying to find your way home or to a place you've never been, but the streets keep changing. Directions don't make sense. GPS doesn't work. Sometimes the roads lead you in circles. This dream usually reflects a sense of uncertainty in life. You may feel directionless, unsure of your next step, or caught in a cycle of indecision. The dream's geography, constantly shifting, frustrating, illogical, is a direct mirror of your emotional state. What's important to understand is that recurring dreams don't mean you're stuck. They mean your mind is still working on something. It's still trying to process or resolve a situation that's unresolved in waking life. These dreams aren't random. They're intelligent in their own symbolic way. Your subconscious is using metaphor to get your attention. And here's where the research gets even more interesting. People who take time to reflect on, record, or explore their recurring dreams often report that the dreams eventually stop or change. The dream doesn't need to repeat once the message is heard. Some even say that acknowledging or confronting the theme while awake leads to a dream breakthrough, like finally confronting the pursuer or finding the missing classroom. When the emotional pattern is processed consciously, the dream story evolves. This supports the idea that dreams are part of an internal feedback system. They aren't separate from waking life. They're a continuation of your psychological processing, and recurring dreams are like flags your brain raises to say, there's something here you still need to look at. Of course, not all recurring dreams are negative. Some people experience recurring places, mysterious dream cities, hidden rooms, or unfamiliar forests that feel like home. These locations don't exist in waking life, but appear again and again across months or years. These are sometimes referred to as dreamscapes, and they may represent internal psychological structures, safe spaces, emotional landscapes, or metaphors for identity. A vast library might represent your inner knowledge. A crumbling building might reflect a part of your life that's being dismantled or rebuilt. The consistency of the location suggests that the dream is drawing from a deeper part of your mind, something foundational. Some theorists believe these recurring landscapes are fragments of the default mode network, a brain system associated with introspection, imagination, and the sense of self. When you dream, this network becomes highly active, potentially generating consistent inner worlds that your mind revisits to explore itself. It's a strange thought that there may be locations in your mind, places you've never visited in real life, that exist only for you. But if your brain can create entire dream environments that feel real, consistent, and meaningful, then who's to say those landscapes aren't real in some internal way? Recurring dreams also tend to show up during transitions, moving to a new city, starting or ending a relationship, changing careers. These are moments when identity is in flux, when the inner world is trying to keep up with outer changes. Your dream mind might try to anchor you, or challenge you, or remind you of something you're forgetting. Sometimes the dream seems to know what's coming before you do. A relationship ends, and suddenly a dream you had months ago makes sense in retrospect. A job change, and that dream about being lost finally clicks. This raises the question, does the unconscious mind anticipate things before they reach awareness? Some neuroscientists think it might. The brain is constantly analyzing subtle emotional patterns, behavioral shifts, and intuitive impressions long before we consciously register them. If dreams tap into that data pool, it's possible that a recurring dream is reacting to signals we haven't fully processed yet. This doesn't mean dreams are prophetic in a mystical sense, but they may be predictive in a psychological sense, sounding internal alarms, preparing emotional ground, or pointing at something that's brewing below the surface. Another recurring experience is the false awakening, a dream where you believe you've woken up, started your day, or gotten out of bed, only to realize later that you're still dreaming. These can be disorienting, especially if they stack in layers. You wake up several times in a row, only to discover that you're still inside a dream. False awakenings often happen when your mind is trying to return to consciousness, but isn't quite there yet. They're common during interrupted sleep or after stress, but they also reveal something profound. Your dreaming mind is capable of recreating the experience of waking reality so accurately that you can't tell the difference. That alone should give us pause. If a dream can feel so real that you're convinced you're awake, then what defines the boundary between dreaming and waking? Is it physical input, logical coherence? emotional realism. The fact that dreams can mimic consciousness so closely challenges our understanding of what consciousness even is. There's also the phenomenon of nested dreams, a dream within a dream, sometimes multiple layers deep. These can feel like you're descending into increasingly strange or symbolic realms, each with its own rules. Some people report dreams where they wake up multiple times before finally returning to real consciousness. Nested dreams are rare, but they're powerful examples of how the brain can simulate levels of awareness. They're also used in some spiritual traditions as metaphors for the layers of the self. The ego, the subconscious, the archetypal mind. From a scientific standpoint, these layered dreams are likely caused by disturbances in the transitions between sleep stages. But psychologically, they may reflect deeper processes of self-examination, disorientation, or inner change. Recurring dreams, false awakenings, and nested experiences all point toward one key idea: that dreaming is not random. It is structured, layered, emotionally intelligent, and deeply symbolic. Your brain doesn't throw these patterns at you by accident. It's constructing a world that reflects your internal terrain, your fears, your longings, your unresolved emotions. So when a dream repeats, or evolves, or intensifies, it's not meaningless. It's a signal. The message might not be obvious. It might take time to interpret, but the repetition itself is meaningful. Something in you is asking to be heard. And if you listen, really listen, you might find that your dreams aren't just stories. They're instructions, maps, warnings, or maybe even invitations. If you've ever woken up from a dream with your heart racing, your eyes damp from tears, or a strange sadness you can't explain, then you've already felt one of the most powerful aspects of dreaming: the raw, unfiltered emotion. Dreams are emotional machines. They don't just replicate feeling, they amplify it. Even the strangest or most abstract dream scenes can leave you with an emotional resonance that lingers for hours or days. This is no accident. The emotional intensity of dreams is not a byproduct. It's one of their central functions. To understand why, we have to look at how your brain processes emotion during sleep. During REM sleep, the primary stage for vivid dreaming, the limbic system is particularly active. This includes areas like the amygdala, which processes fear and arousal, and the hippocampus, which is involved in memory formation. At the same time, the prefrontal cortex, which governs rational thought, decision-making, and logic, becomes relatively quiet. In simple terms, the emotional parts of your brain are on overdrive, while the logical parts take a back seat. That's why dreams often feel so emotionally intense, but make little logical sense. You're reacting to feelings without a filter. This neurological setup gives your brain a kind of freedom it doesn't have during the day. You're no longer prioritizing facts or social rules. You're not burdened by self-editing. Instead, your mind can engage in deep emotional processing. It can revisit painful moments, rehearse emotional responses, or experiment with new outcomes, all in a symbolic format that keeps you safe. This helps explain why dreams often revisit emotionally charged events from your past. You might dream about someone who hurt you years ago, or about a situation that was never resolved. These aren't random callbacks. Your brain is trying to reintegrate those emotional experiences. It's testing out different emotional narratives. What if you had said this instead, or walked away sooner, or forgiven yourself? This is part of what researchers call emotional memory consolidation. During REM sleep, your brain doesn't just store memories, it reshapes their emotional tone. You might go to sleep feeling hurt, and wake up with a slightly less painful version of that memory. Over time, dreams can help lessen the emotional charge of painful memories. It's like an overnight therapy session your brain performs on itself. But this process can also work in the opposite direction. If you're going through a period of stress, grief, or trauma, your dreams may intensify those emotions. They can even bring buried emotions to the surface. In these cases, dreams aren't soothing, they're confronting, they're trying to get your attention. This emotional processing isn't limited to trauma, it also applies to creative insight, personal growth, and problem solving. During sleep, your brain strengthens the neural connections associated with emotionally important experiences. That's why you might dream about someone you're falling in love with, or about a decision you're avoiding, or about a goal you've been quietly obsessed with. The emotion is the glue that binds the dream together. And because your brain is so emotionally attuned during REM, even subtle feelings can get magnified into full dream experiences. A moment of embarrassment during your day might transform into a dream of public humiliation. A brief moment of connection might become a dream of profound love. Dreams exaggerate because they are sculpting the emotional shape of your life story. Interestingly, brain scans have shown that dreams can activate nearly the entire brain, but in a unique pattern. There's intense activity in the visual cortex, which creates dream imagery, and in the motor cortex, even though your body remains still. The anterior cingulate cortex, which processes conflict and emotional regulation, also lights up. It's as if your brain is running a simulation, a full emotional and sensory environment minus physical movement. This simulation function has evolutionary advantages. Some researchers believe dreams serve as a kind of safe rehearsal space. You get to feel complex emotions, navigate challenges, face social interactions, or confront fears, all without real-world consequences. It's a sandbox for your emotional brain, but it's not just about fear or anxiety. Dream research has shown that positive emotional dreams, those involving love, joy, creativity, or achievement, can enhance mood, reduce stress, and even improve emotional resilience. These dreams aren't just pleasant, they're psychologically nourishing. They remind you of your strengths, your hopes, your sense of connection. They restore balance to your emotional system. One interesting study found that people who had dreams involving supportive social interaction, like conversations with loved ones, felt more connected and emotionally stable the following day. Their brain had rehearsed belonging, and the effects carried over into waking life. That suggests your dreams may play an invisible role in shaping how you relate to others. They help you process relationship stress, reinforce emotional bonds, and prepare for future social interactions. Think about how often your dreams involve people from your life: friends, ex-partners, co-workers, strangers who somehow feel familiar. These aren't just character cameos, they're part of your brain's emotional network. And in your dreams, they become symbols, reflections, or stand-ins for parts of your inner experience. Sometimes, a person in your dream isn't really them. It's what they represent. Your strict former boss might appear in a dream not because you're thinking about them, but because you're dealing with inner pressure. A sibling might show up during a time when you're confronting unresolved family dynamics. The people are symbols, the emotions are real, and in some cases, the emotions in your dreams can reveal things you're not ready to admit when awake. For example, dreaming about jealousy might point to a vulnerability you're hiding from. Dreaming about longing might signal something you're not allowing yourself to want. This is where dreams become tools, not just for entertainment or curiosity, but for emotional clarity. Your dreams won't always hand you a clear message, but if you pay attention to the emotions, the way the dream made you feel, you can often find your way to the underlying insight. Was the dream frustrating, liberating, nostalgic, fearful? That emotional fingerprint can guide your interpretation better than the literal content ever could. Some researchers even argue that emotion is the true language of dreams. The images are just metaphors, shapes that give form to what your heart is trying to express. If you shift your focus from what happened in the dream to how it felt, the meaning often becomes clearer. There's also evidence that the intensity of dream emotion can influence memory recall. You're more likely to remember dreams that evoke strong feelings. That's why a neutral dream about walking through a grocery store fades immediately, while a strange, emotionally charged dream about being lost in a city you've never seen can stay with you for years. That lingering feeling, dream residue, is part of how your brain tags emotional significance. You may not remember all the dream content, but the emotional signature remains, shaping your mood and thoughts long after waking. This might also explain why some people wake up crying, laughing, or feeling inexplicably peaceful. The brain doesn't stop processing emotion when sleep ends. It carries it into the next state of consciousness. And the overlap between dream emotion and waking emotion suggests that these are not separate states. They're part of one continuous emotional life. Now, this brings up another intriguing question. If your dreaming mind is that emotionally sensitive, what happens when you train it? What happens when you start to become aware of your emotional patterns while dreaming? That's where practices like lucid dreaming and dream journaling come into play. Writing down your dreams regularly helps you recognize emotional themes and patterns. Over time, this can give you insight into your subconscious responses. What triggers your anxiety, what sparks your creativity, what emotional loops you're stuck in. Lucid dreamers often report using their awareness to transform the emotional tone of a dream. For example, if they encounter a threatening figure, they might confront it, speak to it, or even embrace it, changing the fear into curiosity or empowerment. This isn't just fantasy, it shows that the emotional landscape of your dreams is flexible. You can interact with it, reshape it, and even heal through it. That opens the door to something remarkable, the idea that your dreams are not just stories told to you. They're co-created. You are both the dreamer and the dreamed, the architect and the explorer. So when you dream of something powerful, something joyful, terrifying, or painfully beautiful, it's not just entertainment. It's your brain showing you what matters. It's your heart telling you what it still feels. And it's your mind experimenting with ways to grow, heal, and understand. Dreams, in this view, are a second life, emotionally rich, symbolically dense, and biologically vital. They may not always make sense, but they always mean something. And if you learn to listen, not with your logic, but with your intuition, you may find that your dreams are doing more than reflecting your life. While dreams can be insightful, beautiful, and emotionally restorative, they also have a darker side. Nightmares, sleep paralysis, and other unsettling phenomena show us that dreaming isn't always peaceful. Sometimes it confronts us with our deepest fears, whether we want to face them or not. Let's start with nightmares. At their most basic, nightmares are dreams that provoke intense fear, anxiety, or discomfort. They usually end in awakening, often with elevated heart rate, sweating, or a feeling of disorientation. Everyone has occasional nightmares, but for some people, they become chronic, recurring over and over in painful loops. From a neurological standpoint, nightmares activate the amygdala and other limbic structures in extreme ways. The brain is flooding the body with stress hormones while you're still in REM sleep. This makes nightmares feel physically real. You're not just imagining fear, you're experiencing it. So why does the brain do this to itself? There's a theory called the threat rehearsal hypothesis, which suggests nightmares evolved as a survival mechanism. By simulating danger in a dream, your brain gets to practice how to respond. This could be why so many nightmares involve being chased, trapped, or attacked. Scenarios that force you to react, even if only mentally. It's possible that those who dreamt of danger had an evolutionary edge, better prepared for real-world threats. But nightmares aren't just evolutionary relics. They're often tied to real psychological stress. People with PTSD frequently experience nightmares replaying or distorting traumatic events. But even without trauma, anxiety, depression, and grief can provoke disturbing dream content. The mind is trying to process overwhelming emotion, but without the daytime filters that normally help keep us steady. One of the most troubling types of dream-related phenomena is sleep paralysis. It usually occurs in the transition between wakefulness and REM sleep. You regain consciousness but find that you cannot move. Often it comes with vivid hallucinations, dark figures in the room, a crushing weight on your chest, the sense of something watching you. People describe it as terrifying, and it's easy to see why. Sleep paralysis happens when your body is still in REM atonia, the paralysis that prevents you from acting out your dreams, but your mind wakes up before your body does. In that strange in-between state, your brain may still be dreaming, projecting visual or auditory hallucinations into your perception of the real world. Cultures around the world have created stories to explain this phenomenon. In Japan, it's called kanashibari, and in Scandinavian folklore, it was blamed on a mare sitting on the chest. In modern times, some interpret it as alien abduction or ghost encounters. What's consistent across all interpretations is the emotional content: fear, helplessness, vulnerability. The sensation of being watched, of being overpowered. But understanding the biology of sleep paralysis doesn't make it less real. These experiences feel real because neurologically they are. Your sensory systems are active, your emotional circuits are on high alert. The threat might not exist in the external world, but your brain is fully immersed in the experience. Some researchers now believe that sleep paralysis may be linked to disrupted REM cycles, especially in people with irregular sleep schedules, anxiety, or narcolepsy. But interestingly, some people have learned to transform sleep paralysis into a gateway for lucid dreaming or out-of-body experiences. By staying calm, focusing the mind, and shifting awareness, some individuals move from paralysis into full conscious dreaming. It takes training and nerve, but it shows that even the scariest dream phenomena can be recontextualized. This brings us to another category of strange dream states: false awakenings. You believe you've woken up, started your day, maybe even brushed your teeth, only to realize you're still dreaming. These loops can happen several times, especially during early morning REM cycles. They often feel eerily real, as if your brain is testing your grip on reality. False awakenings raise an important question. How do you know when you're awake? This question isn't just philosophical, it touches the core of consciousness. If your brain can perfectly simulate the waking world while you sleep, down to the texture of your pillow or the hum of traffic outside, then what exactly defines waking reality? Some people use reality checks, looking at text, checking mirrors, flipping light switches. as ways to determine whether they're dreaming. In a dream, these simple actions often don't behave normally, but the very need for such checks reveals something profound. Your perception is not always trustworthy. Dreams are not always distinguishable from waking life, at least while you're inside them. This is one reason why certain traditions, like Tibetan dream yoga or some indigenous practices, treat dreams as equally real to waking life. Not because they believe dreams are literal, but because they believe consciousness is not limited to the waking state. Dreams are considered another field of experience, no less valid, no less meaningful. That belief may sound spiritual, but it intersects with modern neuroscience in interesting ways. We now know that the brain doesn't just passively rest during dreams. It generates entire experiential realities. It simulates space, time, body, and emotion. That means your sense of self, your very identity, is being reconstructed nightly in a different framework. And this reconstructed self often carries different qualities. In dreams, you might feel braver, or more impulsive, or less inhibited. You might speak in a different voice. You might remember things you've never consciously known. This dream self is still you, but it's a version of you, a filtered, fragmented, or amplified self. In that sense, dreams don't just reflect your inner world. They reveal what your mind is capable of being. This is particularly evident in night terrors, a form of parasomnia that differs from nightmares. Night terrors usually occur during non-REM sleep, often in children. The person may sit up, scream, or appear terrified, but they're not fully awake and often don't remember the event. The brain is trapped between sleep stages, triggering a fight or flight response without full conscious awareness. These episodes suggest that fear doesn't even require a dream narrative. The body and brain can enter a state of terror without any external trigger. This highlights how deeply our survival mechanisms are wired into the brain's architecture, so deeply that they can activate without story, image, or logic. But not all disturbing dreams are terrifying. Some are unsettling in subtler ways. A dream where your home is slightly wrong, a conversation where the words don't make sense, a sense of dread without a clear source. These liminal dreams, not quite nightmares, not quite neutral, often leave the strongest impressions. They tap into the uncanny, the unspoken, the shadow material that doesn't fit neatly into fear or desire. Carl Jung referred to this kind of content as the shadow, the repressed, disowned, or unexplored parts of the self. In dreams, the shadow often appears as frightening figures, chaotic scenes, or morally ambiguous situations. Jung believed that engaging with these shadow elements was essential for psychological growth. The dream wasn't punishing you. It was introducing you to a part of yourself you've ignored. This is where dreams shift from symptom to message, from problem to potential. Nightmares, sleep paralysis, and disturbing dreams aren't just failures of peaceful sleep. They're portals. They reveal what you fear, what you've buried, or what you're ready to face. And while they may not be pleasant, they are honest. Of course, not everyone wants to explore their nightmares, and that's okay. Some dreams are just expressions of raw stress, mental clutter, or physical exhaustion. But for those who are curious or who feel trapped by repetitive nightmare patterns, there are ways to approach these experiences with more awareness. Dream journaling helps. Writing down nightmares can reveal patterns. Are the dreams always about loss, isolation, helplessness? Recognizing these emotional themes can shift the relationship from fear to understanding. Lucid dreaming training is another option. By practicing reality checks during the day, keeping a dream log, and setting intentions before sleep, some people learn to gain awareness inside the nightmare. Instead of running from the monster, they ask it what it wants. Instead of falling off the cliff, they fly. These aren't just dream games, they're symbolic rehearsals of personal transformation. They show that even in the most terrifying dream, there is potential for agency. Because dreams aren't static, they evolve with you. As your awareness grows, so does your capacity to work with the material your mind presents at night. And the more you listen, the more the dream world reveals, not just darkness, but depth. The edge cases of dreaming, the nightmares, paralysis, false awakenings, aren't glitches in the system. They're extremes, pushing the limits of what your consciousness can handle, process, and express. And sometimes growth begins right at that edge. Because if you can face yourself in a dream, even in your most terrifying form, then you can face yourself anywhere. If dreams are more than random firings of the brain, then what are they trying to show you? What's the meaning behind the strange, surreal landscapes your mind creates when the lights go out? The question of dream interpretation stretches back thousands of years. Ancient Egyptians believed dreams were divine messages. The Greeks thought they came from the gods or were omens. Sigmund Freud argued that dreams are a window into your unconscious desires. Carl Jung believed they were symbolic expressions of your deeper self. And modern neuroscience, it's a little more skeptical, but no less fascinated. Let's begin with what dreams may represent psychologically. When you dream, your brain is not just throwing a jumble of nonsense at you. It's actually constructing metaphors, emotional puzzles. A house in a dream might not be a house. It could represent yourself. A storm might not just be weather. It might symbolize internal turmoil. Your brain uses images to process feelings you often don't have the words for. This is where things get especially interesting. Your brain doesn't seem to use a strict code or universal language for dreams. Instead, it speaks in emotional metaphor. In fact, when researchers asked people to describe dreams about falling, flying, being chased, or losing teeth, nearly everyone described these dreams as reflecting real-life anxiety, uncertainty, change, or embarrassment. In one study, participants who reported recurring dreams often had consistent emotional themes: being unprepared, being late, or being judged. These dreams were linked to ongoing stress in daily life, work pressure, social fears, personal insecurities. The dream symbols weren't meaningless. They were representations of psychological patterns. Let's take a deeper look at this through Carl Jung's concept of archetypes. Jung believed dreams use symbols drawn from the collective unconscious, a shared pool of imagery and meaning inherited through human evolution. For example, dreaming of a shadowy figure could represent your shadow self, the parts of you you don't acknowledge. A wise old man might symbolize inner guidance. Water might represent emotion or the unconscious itself. Unlike Freud, who saw dreams mostly as outlets for repressed desires, Jung saw them as guides. He believed dreams were trying to balance your waking consciousness by revealing the parts of you you neglect, your fears, hopes, potentials, even future directions. Jung said, "The dream is the small hidden door in the deepest and most intimate sanctum of the soul." But if this sounds too poetic, remember this. Modern research supports the idea that dreams help with emotional regulation. Brain scans show that when you dream, particularly in REM sleep, the amygdala, a region involved in fear and emotion, is highly active. Yet, at the same time, your brain's stress chemistry is lower than when you're awake. This leads to a fascinating theory. Dreams allow you to feel strong emotions, but in a safe, offline simulation. It's like a pressure valve. You're processing grief, fear, desire, but without real-world consequences. This explains why people often wake up feeling emotionally lighter after a vivid dream. Your brain is practicing, feeling without reacting. Let's go further. A 2017 study published in Nature Human Behavior found that dreams often predict your emotional response to waking events. Participants who dreamed about stressful situations were more resilient the next day when facing similar stressors in real life. Their brains had rehearsed the feeling, and now they were better prepared. So dreams aren't just reactions to your life, they're preparations for it. Now let's ask, why are some dreams so bizarre? Why do you dream you're at your childhood school, but everyone has the face of your neighbor? Or that you're flying through a purple sky filled with clocks? Part of the answer lies in how your brain connects information during REM sleep. During REM, your prefrontal cortex, the region involved in logic and order, is dialed down. Meanwhile, associative networks in the brain go wild, pulling memories, thoughts, fears, and fantasies together with a little regard for coherence. It's like your brain is throwing different puzzle pieces into the air to see what lands together. This chaotic recombination might seem random, but it could actually reveal hidden connections. Creativity researchers have found that people who dream vividly are better at making novel associations and solving complex problems. In fact, many inventors and artists, Salvador Dali, Mary Shelley, Paul McCartney, have credited dreams with sparking breakthroughs. The surreal logic of dreaming can show you what your waking brain overlooks. Here's something even more strange. Sometimes your dreams know what you're feeling before you consciously do. You might dream of a tidal wave days before receiving overwhelming news, or dream of a betrayal before trust is broken. Psychologists call this emotional priming. Your unconscious mind picks up on subtle cues in your environment. Tension, micro-expressions, body language that you don't register while awake. These cues get processed in your dreams, where the unconscious speaks freely. So if you're dreaming of being chased, ask yourself, what's chasing you in real life? If you're dreaming of being lost, where in your life do you feel directionless? There's no universal dictionary of dream symbols because dreams are deeply personal. A snake in your dream might mean danger, or rebirth, or knowledge, depending on your associations. That's why one of the best ways to understand your dreams is to keep a dream journal. When you record your dreams consistently, you start to see patterns, not just in the imagery, but in your emotional themes. You start to recognize how your mind uses metaphor to express what you aren't saying. But dreams don't always reflect reality. They can also reveal fantasy, wish fulfillment, or suppressed creativity. And sometimes they're just odd for no reason you can understand, yet. Let's look briefly at lucid dreaming. In a lucid dream, you realize you're dreaming while still inside the dream. This state is rare, but can be trained. Lucid dreaming studies show increased activity in the prefrontal cortex during these moments. The dreamer essentially regains waking logic inside the dream world. Lucid dreams give us a glimpse into how powerful consciousness can be. You can interact with your dream characters, explore dream environments, even change the narrative. In that sense, your dream becomes not just a message, but a world you co-create. So what do your dreams mean? They are your brain's way of speaking in symbols. A nightly attempt to tell you something, explore something, or release something. Sometimes they are about the past, sometimes the future, sometimes just emotion in motion. Your dreams are shaped by your experiences, memories, and biology, but also by your hopes, your wounds, and your inner conflicts. Meaning isn't just found, it's made. In dreams, you are the author, the observer, and the message all at once. We've talked about what dreams might symbolize and how they help regulate emotion, but now let's ask something stranger. Can dreams predict the future? Across cultures and centuries, countless people have reported precognitive dreams, dreams that seem to come true later. Abraham Lincoln reportedly dreamed of his own assassination. Some survivors of the Titanic claimed they dreamed of the sinking before boarding. And in more recent times, people have shared stories of dreaming about car crashes, illnesses, or even job offers days before they happened. From a scientific perspective, these experiences are often explained as coincidences, memory bias, or unconscious pattern recognition. But let's take this apart carefully. First, the brain is a prediction machine. At every moment, your mind is constantly projecting forward, anticipating what might happen, reading tiny cues, estimating outcomes. You do it without noticing. You walk into a room and know the mood. You meet someone and sense they're lying. Your unconscious is always gathering data. Dreams might be an extension of that process, taking small, unnoticed signals and spinning them into full scenarios. Let's say you dream about a friend getting sick. A week later, they call you and say they caught the flu. Is it prophecy, or did your brain pick up on subtle clues? Maybe they looked tired the last time you saw them. Maybe they mentioned being stressed. Your dreaming mind might have stitched those signals into a story. This is where memory bias comes in. When something happens that matches a dream, it stands out. You remember it. But when something doesn't match a dream, you forget it. Over time, the ratio of accurate hits to forgotten misses can make your dream seem psychic. But there's another possibility, one that's more mysterious. Quantum theories of consciousness, though highly speculative, suggest that the mind may interact with time in non-linear ways. In other words, it's possible, though unproven, that consciousness can access fragments of the future in altered states. Some physicists even entertain retrocausality, the idea that future events can influence the present. No mainstream evidence proves this happens in dreams, but the fact that so many people across time and culture report similar experiences hints at something worth investigating. Could the dream state, loosened from logic, disinhibited from time, tap into a deeper layer of information? Whether or not dreams predict the future, they certainly affect how you shape your future. A dream might reveal a fear you didn't realize was holding you back, or give you the emotional push to make a difficult decision. In that sense, even if your dream didn't foresee something, it may have helped create it. Now, let's explore recurring dreams. Why do some dreams repeat again and again? A person might dream of missing a test, being trapped, falling, or trying to run but being unable to move. These dreams often recur when something in your waking life remains unresolved. They act like alarms, signaling the same emotional issue over and over until it's addressed. For example, someone who repeatedly dreams about being chased might be avoiding a confrontation or decision. Someone who dreams of being underwater might be suppressing emotional overwhelm. These dreams don't stop until the brain feels the problem has been emotionally processed or resolved. There's also a neurological explanation. During sleep, the brain often follows well-worn pathways, just like in waking life. If a particular neural network is activated night after night, the content it generates can stay consistent. This is especially true if the emotional charge behind it is strong. Fear, shame, guilt, longing. The brain tends to revisit those powerful currents again and again. Now consider nightmares. These aren't just bad dreams, they're dreams so intense that they wake you up. Nightmares can be triggered by trauma, stress, medication, or even fever. They serve a purpose, forcing you to confront something that your conscious mind may be trying to avoid. Some researchers believe nightmares evolved to help humans rehearse survival situations. If you dream about being attacked, lost, or betrayed, it may be your brain's way of preparing you emotionally for the possibility of danger. The key difference between a dream and a nightmare is overload. A dream stimulates, a nightmare overwhelms. Chronic nightmares can be signs of deeper emotional distress, like PTSD or anxiety disorders. But even ordinary nightmares may carry important messages. They can expose what frightens you most, what memories still haunt you, or what boundaries are being crossed in your waking life. Interestingly, treating nightmares doesn't always mean stopping them. In many therapies, the goal is to change the nightmare, either through lucid dreaming, visualization, or narrative rewriting. For example, a person who always dreams of falling might imagine learning to fly instead. This creates new neural patterns and can transform the dream from terror into empowerment. Then there are dreams that are so vivid, they feel more real than waking life. You've likely had one, the kind where you wake up and for a moment, you don't remember what's real and what's dream. These hyper-real dreams are often linked to intense emotional events, creative breakthroughs, or even spiritual experiences. Some people call them big dreams, a term Jung used to describe dreams that feel profound, mythic, or life-changing. They tend to come in transitional moments, before a career change, after a loss, or during a personal awakening. These dreams are hard to ignore. They stay with you, haunting the edges of your day. Even if you don't fully understand them, they seem to hold something important. Big dreams often use grand, archetypal imagery. Oceans, mountains, temples, animals, fires. They may carry messages in metaphor, or confront you with truths you've been avoiding. You may dream of dying, but it's not a prophecy. It's a transformation, a death of ego, a rebirth of identity. When these dreams appear, it's worth writing them down. Not just to analyze them, but to honor them. They may be more than psychological echoes. They may be doors into something beyond logic. There's one more element to consider: dreams about people, especially people who are gone. A surprising number of people dream about deceased loved ones, and these dreams often feel different, calmer, more vivid, more peaceful. Some describe these dreams as visitations, while others see them as the brain working through grief. Neurologically, dreaming of someone who has died allows the brain to re-experience connection, process loss, and begin repair. But for those who've had these dreams, the experience can feel more mysterious, like consciousness reaching across space and time to make contact. Whether symbolic or spiritual, these dreams tend to comfort rather than frighten. They give people a sense of closure or even ongoing relationship with the one who's gone. In all of this, one theme is constant. Dreams are emotional landscapes. They speak through images, symbols, feelings, and movement, not words. They don't follow your waking logic. They follow the logic of your inner world. We've explored the symbolic, emotional, and even predictive dimensions of dreams. But now, let's turn inward, toward the self. Can dreams reveal who you really are? One of the most fascinating ideas in dream research is that the characters in your dreams might not just represent other people. They might represent you, different parts of you, your anger, your ambition, your fear, your inner child. Each figure in a dream may be a mirror of your subconscious psychology, played out on a symbolic stage. This concept originates in Jungian psychology. Carl Jung believed that dreams contain archetypes, universal symbols rooted in the collective unconscious. A wise old man, a shadowy stranger, a nurturing figure. These aren't just random characters. They represent aspects of your own psyche, which you may or may not be aware of. Take the dream of being chased. The pursuer may not be an external threat. It could be a part of yourself you're avoiding, a memory, a desire, a trait you don't want to admit. The mind splits it off, personifies it, and brings it into the dream as something other until you're ready to confront it. This gives dreams an incredibly valuable role in psychological integration. By observing your dreams, you can begin to recognize parts of yourself that have been disowned or buried. A person who's always polite in waking life may dream of being wild, violent, or rebellious, not because they want to be dangerous, but because that energy has been suppressed. The dream becomes a pressure valve for unacknowledged emotion. Even nightmares can serve this purpose. The terrifying figure, the one you flee from again and again, might become less frightening when you realize it's a representation of your own fear, or your grief, or your unresolved trauma. This process is sometimes called shadow work, engaging with the hidden, uncomfortable parts of the self. And dreams are a direct portal to it. But dreams aren't only reflections of fear and conflict. They're also sources of creativity, inspiration, and insight. Some of the world's greatest artists, scientists, and inventors credit dreams with their breakthroughs. Paul McCartney said the melody for Yesterday came to him in a dream. Mary Shelley dreamed the core scene of Frankenstein. Chemist August Kekulé discovered the ring structure of the benzene molecule after dreaming of a snake eating its own tail. And Dmitri Mendeleev reportedly envisioned the periodic table in a dream. Why does this happen? During REM sleep, the brain becomes less restricted by logic, convention, or linear thinking. Associations loosen. Ideas connect in surprising ways. The default mode network, the brain's center for self-reflection and imagination, becomes highly active. In this altered state, new patterns emerge. Solutions appear. Art forms itself. For creative people, dreams aren't just entertainment. They're a laboratory, a rehearsal space, a testing ground for bold ideas that don't yet make sense. And because dreams allow for emotion and narrative to blend freely, they often bypass the inner critic that stifles creativity during waking hours. You might have noticed this yourself. Have you ever woken from a dream with the sense that something important just happened, something you almost understood? That's because the dream was speaking in its own language. A symbolic, emotional, image-based language that your conscious mind doesn't fully translate. Writing down your dreams, especially right after waking, can help preserve that message. Even if it feels nonsensical, there may be recurring themes, metaphors, or symbols that speak directly to your internal state. Over time, those dream journals can reveal patterns you didn't see before, moments of personal evolution, emotional processing, or creative direction. Some people even use their dreams for problem solving on purpose. This technique is called dream incubation. Before sleep, you focus your thoughts on a specific question or dilemma. You might write it down, say it aloud, or visualize it clearly. The idea is to plant the seed in your subconscious so your dreaming mind will work on it through the night. Studies have shown this can be surprisingly effective. The brain, when freed from distractions and logic, often discovers connections that elude conscious thought. It's not magic, it's how neural networks reorganize themselves when allowed to wander. Another rare but powerful form of dreaming is lucid dreaming, when you become aware that you're dreaming while still inside the dream. In this state, you can sometimes take control of the dream's content. Fly, change the scenery, interact with characters, or explore parts of your mind directly. Lucid dreaming activates parts of the prefrontal cortex that are usually quiet during REM sleep. This hybrid state, part dreaming, part waking, can be trained through techniques like reality checks, dream journaling, and wake back to bed methods. Some lucid dreamers use this state for personal growth. They might confront nightmares, practice skills, or ask their dream characters direct questions. Others use it for pure exploration, testing the boundaries of imagination. But regardless of how it's used, lucid dreaming shows just how plastic and responsive the dream world can be. It's not a fixed movie playing for you. It's an interactive space created by you. This raises deep philosophical questions. If you can become conscious within your unconscious, what does that say about the structure of the mind, about identity, about the boundary between self and world? Some researchers even suggest that dreaming, and especially lucid dreaming, might be a window into consciousness itself. If we can understand how the brain generates an immersive world while asleep, we might get closer to understanding how it creates the waking world. There's also growing research into dreams and neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself. During sleep, neurons that fire together tend to wire together. This means the content of your dreams could be shaping your brain just as much as waking experience. If you dream repeatedly of overcoming obstacles that may strengthen resilience pathways, if you dream of failure or trauma, it may help you desensitize and integrate those emotions. This might explain why people often feel emotionally changed by a particularly intense dream, even if nothing has changed in their life. All of this adds up to a picture of dreams not as random noise, but as active processes with psychological, emotional, and biological importance. They are simulations, stories, and signals, delivering updates from the subconscious, solving problems, rehearsing futures, integrating memory, and reflecting identity. Dreams don't just happen to you, they come from you. Every image, sound, and event is sourced from your own inner library. And yet they often feel foreign, like something beyond your control. This dual nature of being both you and not you is part of what makes dreams so powerful. They remind you that the mind is larger than what you're conscious of, that there are forces inside you, desires, fears, intuitions that operate without asking permission, and that by paying attention to them, you can deepen your understanding of who you are. If dreams are mirrors of the self, they also act as bridges, connecting different parts of your experience across time. They bind together the past, present, and future in ways that the waking mind can't always manage. And sometimes those connections seem to defy logic altogether. Let's talk about precognitive dreams, the experience of dreaming about something before it happens. Anecdotal accounts of this phenomenon stretch back thousands of years. People have dreamed about natural disasters, chance meetings, deaths, inventions, and even lottery numbers, only to find those events or symbols appearing in waking life days, weeks, or months later. Science generally treats these cases with skepticism, and for good reason. The mind is wired to find patterns and meaning even when none exists. You might have hundreds of dreams that don't come true, and then when one does resemble reality, it stands out as special. That's confirmation bias. But that doesn't fully explain every case. Some are so specific, so detailed, that they defy simple statistical explanation. And even among researchers, there's a growing interest in the possibility that dreams may occasionally tap into information the conscious mind isn't yet aware of. One hypothesis is that the brain, during dreaming, is drawing on subtle cues, things you've seen or heard unconsciously during the day, and combining them into predictions. This isn't supernatural, it's just a deeper level of pattern recognition. Your dream might predict someone's betrayal, not because it's psychic, but because your subconscious picked up on body language or tone that your waking mind ignored. But there's a more radical theory too. Some physicists and philosophers speculate that time may not be strictly linear. If consciousness exists outside the bounds of ordinary space-time, perhaps through quantum processes in the brain, then dreaming could be a way of accessing information from the future. This is highly speculative, of course, but it raises fascinating questions about how much we actually understand the architecture of time and mind. Are dreams limited to memory and imagination, or are they windows into a larger field of information? Carl Jung called this the collective unconscious, a shared layer of psychic reality accessible through dreams and symbols. Modern thinkers sometimes describe it in terms of an information field or even a holographic universe. In this view, dreaming is not a purely private process, it's a tuning in. But even if we set aside the mystical and speculative, the practical power of dreams remains, especially when it comes to emotional healing. Studies show that people suffering from trauma often have recurring dreams related to their experience. These dreams might seem painful, even unbearable, but they serve a purpose. They help the brain and body reprocess the trauma, slowly integrating the memory in a way that can be lived with. Over time, these dreams often change, soften, or resolve. This is part of what's known as memory reconsolidation. When you dream about something emotionally charged, your brain has a chance to alter how that memory is stored. It becomes less threatening, less raw. That's one reason REM sleep is essential for psychological recovery. Nightmares, while distressing, can also be adaptive. They highlight what needs attention. They show you where the wounds are. And in many cases, once a person faces the source of the fear, either in therapy, in life, or even within the dream, the nightmare loses its power. It becomes a story with an ending, rather than a trap on repeat. Dreams can also reflect your relationship with other people. Interpersonal themes like abandonment, love, betrayal, rejection, or support often play out in dreamscapes. These aren't just random emotional echoes. They show you the emotional truth of a relationship, even if your waking mind is trying to avoid it. A dream might show you hugging someone you've been arguing with, revealing a hidden desire to reconcile. Or it might show someone distant or disappearing, hinting at emotional detachment. Sometimes dreams are more honest than your waking thoughts. One study found that dreams often exaggerate emotions, amplifying them, so that they're easier to recognize. That burst of panic, sorrow, or longing may seem disproportionate, but it's your psyche highlighting what matters. It's not being subtle on purpose. What's also fascinating is how other people's dreams often carry symbols that align with yours. Archetypes show up across cultures and histories. Snakes, falling, teeth, water, flying, being chased, being late. All these symbols repeat. They emerge from deep, shared psychological patterns, not individual experience alone. This suggests there's a universality to dreams. While each is shaped by your own life and memory, the structure of the dream world has its own internal logic, almost like a shared language of the unconscious. Modern neuroscience supports this. Studies of brain activity during dreaming show that while parts of the rational mind go offline, others, like the limbic system, become highly active. Emotions, sensations, and memories mix freely, forming non-linear but meaningful narratives. These aren't just hallucinations, they're structured experiences shaped by emotional salience. And because dreams are built this way, they become ideal tools for transformation. When you engage with them by reflecting, journaling, or exploring the meaning, you begin to change not just your thoughts, but your emotional landscape. You reshape your relationship to fear, to desire, to memory, and even to possibility. Some therapists use dream work as part of trauma healing, grief therapy, and even spiritual development, not by interpreting dreams like a fortune teller, but by helping clients discover what their own dream language reveals. What felt important, what patterns emerged, what's unresolved. You don't need to believe in any one theory to benefit from this. Whether you see dreams as messages, simulations, or random noise, the fact remains. They are created by you, for you, using the raw material of your life. They're worth listening to, because they often show you who you are when you're not trying to be anything, when the performance stops, when the noise fades, when the mind opens. That's why dreams have such an enduring mystique. They come from a place you can't quite reach while awake, a deeper consciousness, a hidden map of your inner life. And sometimes that map points toward healing. You've made it to the end of this journey through the dream world. And now we arrive at the most important question. What does it all mean for you? Because after all the science, the theories, the research, and the speculation, dreams remain deeply personal. No one else sees what you see when your eyes are closed. No one else walks the landscapes of your mind quite like you do. The meaning of your dreams doesn't come from a textbook or a dictionary. It comes from your own awareness, your own story, your own quiet reflection. And yet, there are patterns, there are connections that science and philosophy are just beginning to understand. Dreams aren't just random neural firings, they serve specific functions. They help regulate your emotions, consolidate your memories, rehearse challenges, and reveal unconscious material. They're a nightly theatre in which your brain plays out the unresolved and the unknown. Even if a dream seems absurd or chaotic, it might be pointing you towards something that matters. A fear you haven't faced, a decision you're hesitating to make, a hope you don't fully trust yet. Dreams don't always speak clearly, but they do speak. And the more attention you give them, the louder and more understandable their language becomes. Think about it. Your brain could have evolved to simply shut down during rest, but it didn't. Instead, it creates immersive, emotional, often symbolic worlds while you sleep. That's not a mistake of biology, that's communication. A message system embedded within your own physiology. It's the part of your mind that doesn't use words, reaching out to tell you what matters most. For some people, this means revisiting dreams they had as children, recurring landscapes, shadowy figures, long-forgotten scenarios that still stir emotion. These dreams stay with us for a reason. They hold unresolved energy, or perhaps a truth we weren't ready to see at the time. And for others, dreams offer inspiration. Musicians, artists, inventors, and scientists have famously received ideas in their sleep. Paul McCartney dreamed the melody of yesterday. Dmitri Mendeleev envisioned the periodic table. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein was born from a dream. These aren't coincidences. They're examples of the brain synthesizing knowledge in novel ways. This synthesis doesn't stop when you wake up. In fact, some researchers argue that understanding your dreams consciously amplifies their effect. When you integrate a dream's message, when you connect it to your life, you create a feedback loop. The unconscious mind responds. The dream world changes. You evolve. This is why people who practice dream journaling often report richer, more vivid dreams. When you signal to your mind that you're listening, it speaks more clearly. The subconscious, like any relationship, becomes stronger with attention and trust. And there's more. We've talked about REM sleep as the primary state where dreams occur, but dreams also show up in non-REM stages, especially during lighter sleep. These dreams tend to be more thought-like, more narrative, less emotional. They often deal with daily concerns, work, chores, social interactions. They're still meaningful, just in a different way. They show how your brain is prioritizing and problem solving. So every phase of sleep carries a different kind of dreaming. Some practical, some symbolic, some mysterious. And together, they create a comprehensive internal system of nightly restoration and exploration. Now let's return to the idea we started with. Where does your consciousness go when you sleep? We said earlier that dreams are not a detour from consciousness, but an expansion of it. And after everything we've explored, that idea should feel more real. Your consciousness doesn't leave you when you sleep. It simply shifts into a different mode of operation, one where logic is less dominant, where emotion and imagery take over, where the rules of waking reality bend and something deeper rises to the surface. You're still you in your dreams, but you're also the observer, the creator, and sometimes the world itself. You're both subject and object. And in this way, dreams can be seen as experiments in identity, in meaning, in transformation. The deeper philosophical view is this. Maybe consciousness isn't just something that exists in the brain. Maybe it's something the brain receives or interfaces with. If that's true, then dreaming might be a way of tuning into a broader field of awareness, one that includes not just your personal memories, but a universal intelligence that all minds can access. That's speculative, yes, but it's consistent with reports from lucid dreamers, from meditators, from people who've had near-death experiences or intense altered states. They often describe a kind of awareness that goes beyond the individual self, a feeling of being connected to something larger, more timeless. And dreams, especially certain types, like flying, floating, dissolving, can evoke that same feeling, a brief sense that the boundaries between you and the world aren't so rigid after all. So what does it mean to dream? It means you are never static. You are in constant dialogue with your inner world. You are continually processing, evolving, remembering, preparing, creating, even while you rest. Dreams are not distractions, they're revelations. They remind you that life is more than routines and responsibilities, that underneath the surface of every day, there's a river of symbolism, emotion, and insight flowing within you. And maybe, just maybe, dreams are not just about you either. Maybe in some mysterious way, your dreams also ripple outward, shaping the emotional tone of your interactions, influencing your creativity, contributing to the unfolding of consciousness in the world. That's a possibility science hasn't quite measured yet, but it's worth wondering about. So tonight, when you lie down to sleep, pay attention to the threshold, the moment your mind begins to drift, the images that start to arise, the feelings that tug at the edge of language. That's your doorway. Step through it gently, with curiosity, with reverence, because inside your dreams, something sacred is always waiting to be seen.